you know what is going to happen next? Oh, you're gonna be excited. You better be so excited because next we are gonna hear from the one and only Supreme Court Justice Montoya-Lewis, who's amazing, and I cannot wait to hear. And also, there is more. There is so much more. You don't even know about it, but you're gonna, because we're gonna hear about all the scholarship recipients, and I am gonna introduce Jeremy Walker, who is the chair of the scholarship community, who's gonna tell us all about it, okay? Yes!
Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy Walker, and I am the past scholarship chair of the QLaw Scholarship Committee. It is my privilege today to announce to you the 2020 QLaw Scholarship recipients. After much deliberation, we have decided to select 3. Those 3 worthy recipients are Ryan Cross, Grania Griffiths, and Jason Miller. I want to take this time to acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that they have gone through throughout their legal studies, and this award we hope will reflect that work. It is unfortunate that we are not able to have our banquet as we have had in years past. We hope that this is in some way a way to recognize the hard work that they have put through. Please give these people all of the props that they deserve in receiving this amazing award. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
It's a complete honor to introduce you to this year's keynote speaker, Justice Raquel Montoya-Lewis. Justice Montoya-Lewis was appointed to the Washington State Supreme Court in December 2019, making her the first Native American justice in our Supreme Court's history. She previously served as a Superior Court judge in Whatcom County since 2014. Prior to her time in Superior Court, Justice Montoya-Lewis combined judicial and academic careers, serving as Chief Judge for the Lummi Nation, the Nooksack Indian Tribe, and the Upper Skagit Indian Tribe, while at the same time serving as an Associate Professor at Western Washington University. Justice Montoya-Lewis is also a renowned speaker, presenting nationally on issues of implicit bias, cultural identity, and tribal law and appellate court practice. We are all so lucky to have such an honored justice, educator, and advocate serving on our state Supreme Court. Justice Montoya-Lewis, from all of us at the QLaw Association, thank you for joining us this year, and thank you for being a friend.
Hi everyone. I'm Justice Raquel Montoya-Lewis of the Washington State Supreme Court, and I just want to first of all thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts about where things are in our country and frankly in the world right now, and certainly in our state. I will be honest and say I've reshot this video several times as the news has changed every day and my thinking has changed every day. I was asked to record a video and reflect on what it means to be an ally or a friend to communities other than our own, and to think about resilience, which has certainly been a theme of my life and the life of my tribal communities that I've worked for and my own that I come from. So I wanted to start by sharing a personal story. As many of you are aware, last Friday, the Trump administration issued an executive order stating that there would no longer be protections under the Affordable Care Act and beyond that for trans people who sought medical care. And as some of you know, probably very few of you, I have a trans child who is a teenager. And he is pretty active on social media and engaged in the news, and that evening he came to me in tears and he asked if he would still be able to see his medical providers and if he could see them at all, or if that meant that he was no longer able to access medical care at all. So we talked about what an injunction is, who the people are that might sue the administration on his behalf, and other people situated like him who needed access to medical care in order for their lives to be full and complete lives, like all of us. And I said, it will be a long time, if ever, that becomes the law of the land. And he understood that. He was comforted by that. But he also said, I don't understand why people hate people like me. And I didn't really have an answer for that. And over the course of the weekend, watching the protests in our streets, as well as the streets of the world, he asked me again, I don't understand why people have to take to the streets in order to win the argument that their lives matter. These are not just theoretical questions in our lives today. They are foundational questions. And they are questions that get at who we are as a people. And I spent much of the weekend feeling pretty lost about how to guide my child forward in a life that is certain to present him with people who think his life doesn't matter. And then we got to Monday, when the Supreme Court of the United States issued a ruling that said that LGBTQ lives and the lives of my child matter. And I couldn't wait for him to wake up that morning. And those of you that have a teenager know you never wake a sleeping teenager any more than you wake a sleeping baby. So I didn't wake him up. And when he got up, he was in a typical teenage grumpy mood. And I shared with him what the Supreme Court did. And I was very excited, I was very happy. And I was happy generally about the decision. And I was also happy to be able to give him some good news after a weekend of really hard conversations. And he understood to a certain degree what the court had done, but he also asked me why the court had to do it. And once again, I was a little thrown by that question because I had been surprised by the court's decision in the case. And I hadn't expected to be asked such a hard question so quickly after telling him about the decision. As I said, I keep recording and re-recording this message, and I had a message ready to go yesterday. And then this morning, the Supreme Court issued a ruling holding that the Trump administration could not get rid of the DACA program on the basis that they presented to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I reflected on the many students I taught at Western Washington University who were undocumented, and one student I spoke to recently in my office who asked me whether it was worth pursuing her dream of going to law school, given that this case was pending in front of the Supreme Court, and what my advice to her was. And it was a tough conversation. So I decided to re-record this message this morning and talk a little bit about what it means to be hopeful when there is a real life debate on television, on social media, that really debates the question about whether some people's lives are more valuable than others, and whether or not the lives of Black people matter, and by extension, whether the lives of Black, Indigenous people of color matter, and whether LGBTQ lives matter, whether the lives of my child matter, whether my life matters. It's a hard time in our country to be thinking about those questions. And it makes me reflect on my father, and I've talked about some of his messages in public conversations and speeches before, and some of you may have heard me talk about it. So if my message is repeated, I apologize, but I wanted to share some more personal thoughts about that with you. When I was about 18 and leaving my parents' home, my father gave me this. You can see it's a pretty battered, beat up leather pouch, and inside it are a couple of things that are pretty private, I won't share. But I do want to share with you, it's hard to see, this arrowhead that has been in this pouch, as you can see, probably for, well, many decades, if not longer. And when my father handed it to me, he put it in my hand and said, "This is to keep you safe when you're away from home and away from our people," which was going to be the case because I was going to go away to school. And he said, "Keep it with you always," and I have ever since then. It's something that has been through many hands in my family, many generations, and those generations are generations of people who survived very clear attempts to end their lives, their connections to their communities, their language, their religion, their cultural practices, everything that made them who they were and have made me who I am. And I hold it with me. It's always somewhere where I am, if it's in my bag or sometimes in my pocket, because I do believe it keeps me safe. So I've had some questions over the course of my career about what I wear on my robe. So this is my robe, and I wear these 2 pins on it. And frankly, I've had some criticism about adorning my robe with anything. This pin right here is a silver representation of an eagle feather that my father wore on his clothing most of his career. He was in the military, so there were times where he couldn't put it on his uniform. But he wore it on his lapel or sometimes on a tie almost every day when he was able to. This pin was given to me by a tribal judge, and as you can see, it's a gavel that is that also has a feather on it, and it's representative of the tribal courts and our jobs to do justice, and to do justice that has meaning to our own communities. I wear those because I think that as I have moved from tribal courts into the state court system and now onto the Supreme Court, it is important for me to carry with me all of those messages of resilience, and that my community is always with me, even in times where there's no one around me that is from my community. Because I know I always have them with me, and I have the generations that came before me with me, and the generations to come with me, because the work that I do is work that I hope will result in positive lives for the people who follow me. And not just for tribal people, for people from Indian communities, but people from all communities. I do this work because I want to improve the life selfishly of my own child, and beyond that, the lives of everyone, and in particular, people who have to wonder whether or not their lives matter, because they do, and yours does. I'm really grateful for the work that QLaw does, in part because, in my experience, QLaw and the people associated with QLaw really know how to celebrate their own lives. And that's something that is important to me, because I've always been taught to celebrate my own community internally and externally in other ways through tribal customs and celebrations and clothing and carrying the arrowhead with me. A few years ago, well, actually, it wasn't a few years ago, it was just a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, I decided that I wanted a constant reminder of all of those things. Prior to my decision almost a year and a half ago, I was firmly opposed to ever getting a tattoo. And frankly, almost no one knew about it until there was a magazine article where for some reason I decided to tell them that I had it. I'm not sure I'll be able to show it to you very clearly here, but I'm going to try. So, sorry for blocking the camera. You can maybe see it. It says, "Be kind, do justice," and in the middle is the gavel with the feather. There's a long story behind my particular selection of that. But the words are the thing that I think about all the time on the court. That I think we can think about justice in terms of compassion and in terms of resilience and in terms of the fact that people who don't have the privilege that others do, whether that's the LGBT community or other communities, that we can think about how to challenge the law in a way that comes to those questions with compassion and understanding and a recognition that we don't always understand everything we think we do about other people, about other communities that are not our own, and that we all have a lot to learn and we all bring biases to that. And that willingness to challenge our biases, that willingness to question our own beliefs about everything, is where I really feel like our resilience in our various communities comes through. These last few days with these Supreme Court rulings and the protests in the street and the private hard conversations I think we're all having with our families, with our friends, with ourselves, really give us an opportunity to reflect and recognize that we are all here and we all have an opportunity to use our voices for positive change. And we're doing it, and we are seeing that positive change. It's slow, but it is happening. And I feel very lucky to be on a Supreme Court that was willing to put out a 2-page letter to recognize that we have a long way to go and that our title of justice requires us to give meaning to that title. So I'm very honored to have an opportunity to talk to you, and I hope that you all go out into the world and that you do justice. And I know you will, and I know you do, and I know you have. And I know the fight is hard, and I also know that you're not in it alone. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you, I hope, at a banquet for QLaw, and we can all gather together soon. Thank you. Bye.
I bet you were wondering how you can give to QLaw. How to give to QLaw. Well, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you how you can support QLaw. You just go to www.QLawFoundation.org. QLawFoundation.org.